from NESN, and of course, he's a part of us here at WEEI. Our buddy Andrew Razor Raycroft on trade deadline day. Razor, good morning. How are you?
Wonderful. Good morning. What a day out.
You're a liar. You're a liar.
Whoa.
I'm a liar now.
You are. I have money on the line.
Oh, boy.
I saw some people out in the streets talking, mentioning to me that Razor had some of his buddies in town and a lot of big celebration last night down at the Garden. Lots of old timers, lots of drinks, lots of stories being told. Razor, are you not hungover?
I was like, where are we going? We had our weekly skate this morning, and I did make the skates, but I have felt better before when waking up. Yeah,
okay.
So not as bad as a lot of other guys, I'm sure, but the 2 days, like it was back-to-back days, which again, I'm not only am I a liar, I'm getting a little older, and back-to-back days is tough.
Didn't we all agree amongst the three of us that our word for that would be electric? Was it electric last night, Razor?
It was electric, and it was more electric for a few of the guys that didn't have to work like me. So they got a lot more electric than I did.
Who's out of all because I mean obviously all these guys are coming back into town. I see Chara, I see Tim Thomas, Chara, Tim Thomas. All these guys were in town. The duck boats are out there. Who did you speak to that who has the best story? Can you share any story that is PG related?
Well, so it's funny, right? Because the way they did, of course, it was all about the 11 team, and the guys that I played with, we were invited as well. Weren't on the ice, so. We're sitting up in the booth or in the alumni box, guys like PJ Stock and Hal Gill, and they're sitting there looking at the 11 guys saying, this is the only alumni in the league that gets skinnier after they play. So the guys like Stalker and Hal are up there having 58 beers and telling stories and joking and looking at Zdeno Chara, who's running ultra marathons at this point in his life. So certainly a bit of a contrast between guys who played in 04 to the 11 group.
What is it, Razor, when I'm not going to say it's like Oldtimers Day because it wasn't, but you're celebrating history, and then there's a giant 6'9" man that walks out onto the ice, and he's holding the Stanley Cup. We know how much pressure there is on this group. Are those, when you're a current player, Razor, are those types of celebrations, do they add pressure? Do they get a little icky? Is it just, oh, hey, it's a great night, let's go win a hockey game? Does it affect a current team at all when you welcome back the legends who happen to walk on the ice holding a damn cup?
No, it does. There's a lot of added pressure, and the guys know too. This doesn't happen anywhere else, right? This only happens on original six teams. The Dallas Stars or the Florida Panthers aren't rolling guys out from 50 years ago and aren't talking about tradition or 100 years or whatever. So it's and guys recognize that and appreciate that as players. You know the original six, and you really appreciate nights like last night. Now, it makes you really nervous too, though. I remember I played on Cam Neely night. Now, we're playing the Buffalo Sabres. They're horrible. Buffalo Sabres are horrible. We're in first place in the division, and we go down 2-0 really early, really early in the game, and I'm in net. I'm thinking Cam's going to come down and strangle me. This isn't good. You have to win on Cam Neely night. You cannot mess around on Cam Neely night. You have to win. We did come back and win that game, and it was relief afterwards because those guys are in the building, and you know that you have to put a show on. They're all watching, and it is pressure filled when you see the Hall of Famers, the guys in the jerseys in the rafters in the building. It's a big deal.
So we're talking to Andrew Raycroft, and I'm wondering is that kind of why you think some of those guys like Brad Marchand and some of the others started so fast, they were so physical, hitting everybody, really trying to impress the old guys? Hey, listen, we are taking care of the franchise where we're leaving it in good hands. Is that have anything to do with the way they played last night?
I think there is something to that. Absolutely. Of course, at the end of the day, it's about wins and losses now, and playing the Toronto Maple Leafs should get you up no matter who's in the building. But especially for Brad Marchand, I mean, he played with he was on that team, so he's the last torchbearer of that. And as captain, we've talked. Everyone's seen how responsible he feels to carry this culture on. So there's no question he was fired up on another little bit of level to having all of those guys in the building and him being in that picture, the only one with skates on.
Andrew Raycroft with Gresh and Fourier, as he is each and every Friday, and he's with us on the Harbor One hotline. Bruins sweep the Leafs. Big deal or no big deal to you?
It's not a big deal. The Toronto Maple Leafs are still going to be, if that's who it ends up being in the first round, it's going to be a tough out. There's no way it's going to be a 4-game sweep in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. They score a lot of goals. They're very good. They're getting better defensively. They added a defenseman yesterday, a veteran guy who's won a cup in Joel Edmondson. So it's not like it's going to be easy. The one thing that I do make a big deal about is how this week especially there was no pushback from the Leafs' best players. And you guys know I've got tons of buddies that are Leafs fans that are in Canada texting me all night last night, like, can't believe they're doing this again. Can't believe that the Bruins just bully us around the ice and beat up on us. Like, we're going to get smoked in the first round. So there is an underlying current up there. I think for this group, if they had a loss 4-1 yesterday, I'd be saying no big deal either, because it does change on day one of the playoffs. We saw that last year.
Yeah. So Raycroft, I'm curious. So, like, for Major League Baseball and their trade deadline, the usual thing for them, for players to do, is to politic for help. Hey, if management adds players, it's almost like an indication that the ownership and management believes in the team. And if they don't do anything, they almost take it personally, right? You don't believe in us. I'm watching last night's game, and another thing that stood out to me is it almost felt like the team was trying to identify and let management know that they didn't need any help, that we're good enough the way we are, that you don't need to remove anybody from the roster, and you don't necessarily need to add somebody, but please don't remove anybody. Curious how you feel about that.
I think they reminded us of that this week, all week. They played
that they don't need any help.
Toronto. Yeah, all of the guys on this team want to be here. There isn't anybody that wants to go out the door. That every single one of these players wants to be a part of this. I think they snapped back from we're talking 8 games, 9 games in a row, giving up 3 goals or more, and not being hard in front of the net. The Islanders game was an absolute dog, and then they bounced back with 3 gems this week. And so yeah, there is some of that. Of course, when you're second place overall in the National Hockey League, you do expect deals. It is so different with the salary cap this year. We've got 3.5 hours. Nothing's happened in Boston. A lot of other teams have made a lot of moves. I know the Brass has been on the phone nonstop for 3 or 4 or 5 days. So does something come in under the deadline? We'll see. But I think this year is just a little different in that politicking, you say. A lot of times you do want to see your team make a deal. But I think the way this team played this week, they showed that they can do it with the group they have, and salary cap issues pertaining. There might not be a lot to do.
Razor, how do you view the kids sort of down on the farm, the AHL guys? I know Fabian Lysell gets brought up a lot. I know that we had one of our Twitchers who brought up Justin Brazeau, who came up and has done a good job. And I'm reading some of what is out there that if the Bruins are going to do something, it's got to be really big because they like their young guys. How willing should Don Sweeney be, or I should say, how should Don Sweeney, should he be willing to part with some of these youngs to be able to make a big move here in the short term?
I'm always okay with it. Again, I've banged the drum here and everywhere else. Like, give up every first round pick you have. Give up every second round pick. If you're getting a National Hockey League player back in return for those kind of assets, I'm taking it all day because the Bruins are picking 30th. They're not picking second, third, fourth overall. It's two separate. The NHL isn't the first. NHL's first round is not created equally. It is not like the NFL, and I know that's what a lot of people base it on, and want to say that, well, NFL, you always get a player out of it. It's not the case in the NHL. The top 10 is different than the bottom 5, and that's where the Bruins pick every year. So when it comes to young players, I think they should be in win now mode, and if there are one or two guys that someone else covets very much, and you can get an NHL player that's going to help your roster, and especially if it's beyond this year, then I'm all for it. I think you should go for it. I think we've seen over the years there's so much made about all the draft picks, and the Bruins don't have anyone. They bring guys up all the time that contribute, like Brazeau, like Steen, or like Boquist. Like, there's a lot of guys you can find that can really help your team. Matty Poitras's there too. Don't forget about him. Like, he's a big part of this future. So, again, a long-winded way of saying I'm going for it. If I can get an NHL hockey player that's going to help me the next 2 months and maybe next year as well, I'm giving up anybody who's got a prospect in front of them.
And not that we would hold you to it, but is there a specific name that you've heard kind of thrown around in the halls, where you work, and you maybe just, ponying up to, one of your buddies that may have a source of who they may or may not want?
No, I don't. I really honestly don't. I'm not an insider, and I choose not to be. And I don't know. It's been a lot of guys have gone in different places. The names like the Gensel, Kuznetsov's a big Russian guy who just left Washington. Carolina just got two really good forwards in the last 15 hours. I don't know what the Bruins do. And the big reason for that for you and why I don't know is I don't know how they can manipulate the money. They have like $50,000 to spend. Yeah. So I don't know like how that moves around. And so that's what's really difficult for me. If they had $10 million to spend, it would probably be easier to pick out players who would help. In this situation, I just don't understand the mathematics of it as much as anything else and how they can actually get players in.
So can they win it all with what they have? Or do they need a young or two to come up from Providence to be able to help, or health? I'm curious as to if it's just the Bruins have what they have, are they still championship worthy?
I think they are. Because the NHL, again, is just the playoffs are built so differently. It's all about getting out of that first round. It's all about hitting your stride and having everything fall into place. And I just continue. It's so easy to go back last season. The recency bias works so well in questions like that, in that anything can happen. And the Florida Panthers had to play the best team in regular season history, and they went on to the Stanley Cup Finals last season. So I think we saw this week this team can win. They can find a way to get out of the first round, and if things fall the right way, you can certainly go on a run in the NHL playoffs. If you get in, you have a chance.
Did any of their competitors, any of the teams that they may be maybe nervous about in the postseason make a move, or you're like, they just got a lot better?
Well, Tarasenko to Florida, right?
Yeah, Tarasenko to Florida, but again, that I don't know about that one. I really don't. So it's interesting, okay? With Tarasenko going to Florida, that's the only. He had a no move clause in his contract. He was only going to go to Florida. He said he would not have gone anywhere else. So essentially, Ottawa had to trade him to Florida, and Florida basically had to take him because the value was so low. So it was a third-round pick. Yeah, we're going to take Tarasenko and do that. But does it fit? They've been on such a roll. Does that actually fit? Tarasenko went to the Rangers last year, and everyone said, this is amazing. They have so many good players. They lost in the first round because they added Tarasenko and because they added Kane. So I'm not completely sold on the Tarasenko move. The Toronto Maple Leafs added that Joel Edmondson, a good defenseman who won a Stanley Cup with St. Louis. He's not going to move the needle very much. I think it makes their back end a little bit harder to play against. So in the direct of Florida or Florida or Toronto, I don't think they've made themselves that much better. You look at the wild card, Detroit, Tampa, they haven't done a lot either right now. So the big moves have been Carolina at this point, what they've added here in the last 15 hours, but you're not going to see them until the third round at best.
Where's Waldo this weekend? Are you around? Are you? I know ABC has the Pittsburgh game, so is this a weekend off for you?
It kind of is, yeah. I've got NHL radio deadline here 3 to 6 this afternoon, and then my daughter's hockey last weekend of hockey is this weekend, so I'm around doing that. But yeah, it's a weekend off.
So you guys take calls on that show, don't you?
On Sunday, yeah, I'd love for you to call in on Sunday for you. What do you got going Sunday morning?
Oh, well, wait. Radio is what time?
No, there's no. You're not calling in the radio this afternoon, but we have our hockey show Sunday morning on EEI. I'm sure you've heard about it. I'm sure you listen every Sunday morning.
If Chuck from Foxborough calls up, just put him through. Okay, put him through.
Here we go.
Direct line.
Put him through.
Line.
And how excited were you? Did you think Swayman was going to get in a fight last night?
It would have been fitting, wouldn't it have? The Leafs and the whole thing. He was looking for it a little bit. I think, yeah. It's so interesting. Joe Wall was not. You're not. That's a lose-lose if you're the other goalie, the visiting goalie. You don't even want to let the crowd go crazy over Swayman. Even if you beat him up, everyone's going to love Swayman for it. You don't. As a visiting goalie, you're really reluctant to make that guy look good at that point.
And plus, like, it's going to, by the time you guys take all your pads off, like, no one's going to be interested in the fight.
Yeah. I mean, everyone loves goalie fights, but yeah, you can always throw pillows.
This is breaking
what do we
news.
got?
Breaking news on WEEI is presented by BetQL. Smarter bets start with BetQL. Download the BetQL app or visit BetQL.com today.
All right, Razor, a guy who covers the Minnesota Wild for The Athletic, Michael Russo, is reporting that Pat Maroon is being shipped to Boston from the Minnesota Wild. Oh, no. What is Jack going to do? We'll get to that later, but give me some Pat Maroon eval.
There you go. That is brilliant. Adding some veteran. He's been 4 straight Stanley Cups just a couple of years ago. Certainly a big body, big presence. What's the right way of saying? We'll just balance things out on the ice. A big body, good in front, good stick. Feels if you're going up against Toronto, Ryan Reeves can't run around now.
Ooh.
So that makes things that's interesting. I knew his name was out there, but with the whole him being in Tampa for so long, like the Bruins fans are going to love it. People are going to love it. He's that guy you hate to have on the other team, but love to have. So I love it. Got breaking news. I love.
Wow, I know you just broke it down. Great too.
And if you're Jack Edwards, don't you have to be waiting with a Regina pizza or a Frank Pepe pizza when Maroon gets there to kind of break the ice? No pun.
You might need to lean into that now. Yeah, you might need to lean into it. This is going to be great. Yeah, that's perfect. Very. So there we go.
So good.
Get the ball rolling. There might be a couple more now. That's an interesting deal. I'm glad the Bruins did that.
All right. So the Bruins got a Maroon. Pat Maroon is coming in from the Minnesota Wild. And our hockey Maroon is Andrew Raycroft with us on the Harbor One hotline. For those who watched Looney Tunes, being called a Maroon is not that bad.
Yeah, and I'll talk to you Sunday morning.
Oh, I can't wait for you. I cannot wait.
Somebody remind me.
I don't have Razor's number.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have Razor's number, but I have $20 that Fourier forgets. Fourier forgets.
Man.
Guaranteed.
That call is already Dunsky. No chance.
Oh, you don't get credit for that one.
You're the best, Razor.
I know I don't get credit for it. I'm still going to use it, though.
All right, good.
I know, and I know it made you smile just a little bit, even though you're not going to give me credit for it.
It did. You're the best.
Nice try.
You got a big grin. You're also helping him out. It's been a interesting week for Fourier, as we'll get to later on. But Razor, we'll talk to you, buddy. Thank you.
Have a weekend, guys. Thanks.
There we go. So Pat Maroon.
Wow. Good timing.
Is a Bruin. A lot of people in the Twitch chat. We got a lot of puckheads in the Twitch chat, and the overwhelming reaction instantaneously, good, a little bit of toughness. So I'll take it. I'll take it. The 978, Maroon, I hate that guy. Now I love him. 207, yes, the new Sean Thornton.
Ooh.
I wouldn't go that far. We're not fighting the way we used to back in the day, but just general toughness.